in Oahu. So, and because of the time differences, I pretty much get up at 4 a.m. so that I can start conducting all my business back on the mainland. But it's all good. I love it.
Oh my God, it's beautiful. Well, I'm here in sunny Houston, so
Yeah, it's sunny for today.
sunny for today. The sun has already come up. Hopefully you're catching those rays coming in. I love the natural light. But Kimberly, we've been friends for a while, and it's super exciting to be connecting on this side of kind of, we'll call it your early retirement, and then your phase two, what you're doing in life. And we've decided to do some fun things together, which I'm excited about. And we've been talking and talking. And I feel like every time we talk, we're like, the world needs to hear these conversations because this is making sense and we have answers and solutions that people need. So today we decided to make our conversation a little more available, a little robust, in fact, to live stream simultaneously. We're on Facebook and Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And I'm excited about that. I'm going to go to LinkedIn though, Kimberly, because I want to see how this is showing up.
Okay.
And make sure that we've got this together because neither one of us are like professional producers over here. So we're figuring this out. So you might want to tell the people, what are you doing now, Kimberly?
Yeah. So while Kyra is figuring out how beautiful we are both showing up on LinkedIn, as Kyra mentioned, we are two seasoned professionals who decided to come together to form a corporation, and so this is a part of the overall of being, not just teaching small businesses how to do this. We're actually living it through ourselves. Kyra's had her brand for over 10 years. And of course, I built my brand in the corporate space, in the financial space as a corporate banker for many years. And so we came together to form Renel Evans, which is a part of how we are actually consulting and mentoring entrepreneurs to understand that you
Small businesses. I
have
found it.
individuals who can. You found it.
I found it.
You
All
have
right.
successful individuals who can come together and form partnerships. And in those partnerships, you're able to have broader reach. You're able to do more, not only in terms of marketing, human resource power, but also financial power. To be able to actually, every business will have costs for starting up that business, and when you can share those costs with another strong financial partner, it just makes sense, right? And so a part of what we will be discussing in Supplier Nation is really just what we would not just consider the common sense of business. It is helping entrepreneurs fill in those gaps of those things that they don't know, but they already have a foundation for their business in place. They're an existing supplier, they have contracts in place, but they're looking to scale. They're looking for opportunities to understand the 360 of relationships, contracts, and finances, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
those are, and of course, with that, you have the operations, that the back part of the business. But the front part of the business development part of it is truly, Kyra, as you know, built on the relationships, uh,
Yes.
government, whether they're government contracts, corporate contracts, they're relationship driven. And then, of course, you will have to have the operations and the background as well as the finances to be able to fulfill and carry out those contracts if you were to be a part of them, either from getting on with being able to participate in those contracts. You have to have the capacity for it. So that is what we're going to be talking about in Supplier Nation, Kyra. Getting that all going. I will try my best not to tell any jokes uh,
We
or
can't help it.
karaoke impersonations, but can't be all business all the time. But we promise to be 99% business here on Supplier Nation.
Yes. So welcome, Supplier Nation. Kimberly and I are, if you guys have had any encounters with us, we're both pretty much out of the box thinkers, and we're looking for solutions that create opportunities for business owners and businesses to just grow and just evolve. And so you just tapped in. If you're watching right now, we're getting some traction. I see some comments. If you're tapping in now, what you just walked into, like Kimberly just said, is probably the epicenter of thought partnership. And nothing about the journey of relationship building and strong business they're congruent. They run together. So I'm gonna say this, Kimberly. One of the things that I spend a lot of time doing, and I have one of my colleagues who's heavy on the government contracting side. She said, Kyra, you are always moving around. You are always external and outside of your business, working in other areas, meaning you're always doing or going to events or conferences or exchanging outside your business. She said, I never really hear you like a solid week where you're just solid at your desk, so to speak, just pounding out the work. And I said, well, over the last 10 years, we built a team that can actually help get the work done. But 80% of my job is client facing, direct nurture of the client. And then also, Kimberly, like you said, relationships. So business development in the sales form of things, which means building relationships with people that know, like, and trust me. Better than that, know, like, and trust me, but also understand the value of the impact that we make as a firm. And so you and I have definitely had tons of conversations about that. We've done some business development and relationship building together, even with external partners. And I think that's been a big deal. And that's what makes us, I would say that gives us the brevity of the work that we do. So bringing our two worlds together, I'm an ops girl all day long. I'm thinking about people, process, profitability, the modeling, and I'm thinking about that leader at the helm of the organization. And one of the questions I wanted to just put out here right now, Kimberly, for us to just start kind of chopping it up around is, what should business owners and leaders be thinking about or doing like right now based on the right now conditions?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, first of all, it is important to be able to filter out the nonsense from your information, right? Every decision that any entrepreneur makes has to be based upon actual numbers, the economics around those numbers, and to some degree, the theories. Because as a business owner, you're not only living in your now, you're also having to piece together projections. And projections are forward looking. So in order for you to be able to make sense of your forward, in addition to your now, you also have to have a good source of information. And so we know, Kyra, that there's a lot of noise out there in the markets, in the news, especially in the financial markets, that are driving how individuals are responding. In particular, even as a small business owner, if your contracts are driven towards the government, or if you are in the private sector, you have to be able to pay attention to good economic indicators, right? And so where you get your information from is critically important now.
That's good.
I mean, we're on social media, but we're also individuals who come from disciplined backgrounds, right? So we know that we have to go out there and actually get data, and it's a combination of both current data, real-time data, which you're making decisions every day off of real-time data. But Kyra, we also need to pay attention to those forward-looking indicators, right? And so,
what's a good example of like maybe one or two, like what that tells us what we should think about the next 90 days?
Yeah, especially the private sector, of course. Consumer attitudes, right? How we've looked at information when it comes to a lot of what's happening on the broad scale, even as a small business owner. And let's just say you, just for the sake of simplicity, t-shirts, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes those t-shirts, the raw t-shirts before you print on them, come from somewhere else. They may not be produced here in the United States, or they may be produced somewhere else. Even from a production standpoint, the cotton, the materials to make that t-shirt, everything that we do broadly has some implications, both domestically and globally. So as we're
pause there for a second.
Yeah.
Now, because that was like, you laid down like this huge boulder. I think part of what our luxuries have been in the US specifically is that we've thought about what was in front of us and what was directly impacting our business, not the long-term impact and the
Mhm.
kind of the life cycle of impact, if you will, the full-on supply chain, the full supply chain
Yeah,
of what impacts the way we do business. And I found that especially well, I'll say even service providers don't think about the
Mhm.
full impact of the supply chain and what
Yeah,
is coming down the pike for us. Because if we're service providers and our clients are producing need commodities in order to produce their product, the
mhm.
downline for us is a reduction in or a modification in our agreements based on how that supply chain is affecting our customers. But then there
Absolutely.
are those, right, like your t-shirt, producers or your t-shirt shop owners that are like, well, it's going to take me 3 or 4 extra weeks to get my materials in, and or my price has to go up. We start getting into all
Empty
of
shelves,
the
right?
tax.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
empty
had
shelf.
some of the yeah, you had some of the top CEOs, in the nation,
Sure did.
in DC, speaking on empty shelves.
Yeah.
Everything is being affected. I'm here in Oahu, Hawaii. I was shipping 2 cars to Hawaii. One
Hmm.
car is arriving. I shipped the car, started shipping the car 2 weeks ago. One
Okay.
car is arriving in about another week. The
Okay.
second car, we're not going to get that second vehicle until maybe the beginning of June, right?
Why? What's the holdup?
Ships. There were believe it or not, there
Literally.
were not enough. Literally, were not enough ships at the dock to be able to load more cars on it. And so everything from where those ships are coming from, not only just truckers. We're used to speaking of truckers as small business. Of course, they haul out to where they go. They also backhaul, right? That's
Hmm.
how truckers, make their money. They have to be
Yeah,
able to
every
backhaul.
trip.
We don't think in terms of big container ships also having the same type of economics, right? They bring stuff into the US, but they also have to be able to take stuff back. They
Yeah.
have to be able to backhaul. And so, as the supply chain was being disrupted, there weren't enough ships at the docks across the US.
Yeah.
Uh, you have empty shelves. You have empty shelves because the ships are not bringing in materials. The materials are not being loaded onto trains and trucks, so on and so forth. And so there's an ecosystem. So your
Yeah.
direct question was, what should businesses be thinking about now?
Yeah.
We went through COVID, right? So this is a dress rehearsal. We saw what it means in order for supplies to be slowed down and the contingency planning around that. Kyra, and I'll kick it back to you. You had during that period work with clients who were in almost in an emergency type situation with the uncertainty around the economy, the
Yeah.
uncertainty around supplies again. We're back in somewhat of that thinking in terms of a business. So, what should businesses be thinking about, Kyra, in terms of contingency planning around the potential of having disruptions and empty shelves going forward?
Absolutely. I'll say this. The first thing that typically happens is people go into some tier of, we'll call it a panic, because there's a lack of preparation somewhere and their vulnerabilities are exposed
Mhm.
or they assume they'll be exposed. So that's typically the first thing that people do. It's like, okay, where's my greatest pain point? Where's the biggest threat? How do I manage the risk? So the first thing you want to do is you want to look at where you're exposed and get in front of it. We still probably have, in some instances, maybe another 30, 60 days before full impact of a lot of the changes that have been happening
Mhm.
economically. So I would say get as far in front as you can, and where you have neglected managing your risks in your operations, whether it's understanding the full value of the services you provide and the full timeline. This, you may not even think about this as a risk, the full timeline of your client or your customer conversion cycle, like how long it actually takes you to get a customer on your books. You might want to go back and look at that. Why is that a risk? That's a risk because if there are ways where you can make it more efficient and you haven't, you've just elongated the life cycle of a sale for your business. And so
Mhm.
operationally, there are those little micro tweaks that you can make that will help accelerate the revenue streams where you already have flow. And so that's one way to start looking at risk reduction. Go ahead, Kim.
And let's bring that even closer. We
Okay.
saw that there were conversations, all right, around Washington and the auto industry.
Yes.
And the CEO, one of the CEOs, had mentioned that there was an understanding, so to speak, and that
Mhm.
understanding would not cause the price of U.S. automobiles to go up. As you were speaking in terms of risk and operations, Kyra, how would you lean into business owners right now who are contemplating increasing the price of their products?
Oh, that's good. First thing I would do is I would actually, and I'm a strategist, I need to see the big picture. First thing I would do, I would literally map out your entire customer journey, meaning that customer enters your business at point A, they exit your business at point Z. From A to Z, talk through, write down, whiteboard out, whatever you need to do, what's happening at each step of the customer's journey. And then I want you to make sure that you're not the only one in the room doing this. So you need folks that understand your process and your product so they can help you see where you have some things that are just inherent to you, you don't even think about, that your customer is going through. But I would first map out the customer journey. And the reason why I would do that is because I'd want to see where I can add customer delights that help to increase the value of the services that I'm offering. If I'm going to raise my price, maybe with no visible or tangible increase to what they're going to get or receive. But I would identify where can I add more customer delight and more value. I would try to figure out where I can reduce time and become more efficient. What can I automate? What can I automate?
Yeah.
Yes. Automate. How can I, for you as the business owner, where can I reduce the number of hands that touch a process or a task? If I can take the human hands off of it, I do that. Yes, I'm saying optimize your operations. I am saying that, but I'm by no means saying get rid of people. I'm saying where can you optimize? And so think about that. We have software that we're not fully utilizing as businesses. I can tell you I'm not using every inch of the wall on Microsoft 360 or Teams. I'm not. And the more you utilize your tools, the more you can create optimization for your customers. So Kimberly, I would start with the customer journey. And it's as simple as literally writing it down. Step A, the customer comes into the business here. Step B, the customer receives, X what information or a cue card, or they have to submit a questionnaire, what have you. Here, the customer makes a purchase at this point. I would mark that. I would draw that out and mark down every single place where you can create value.
One of the comments that we had, Kyra, was AI agents, and I was just about to go there. Now,
that's part of optimization.
And so what I hear from you, and I do agree, it's a touchy subject, and CEOs have to be very careful to get rid of people that are vital to their team. But one of the things that every CEO and owner of a company should be doing now is an assessment of skills.
And
seeing how artificial intelligence, AI, could potentially replace some of the redundant tasks that you have your employees doing now, and or streamline that. So it's not necessarily about getting rid of people, but getting more out of the people that you have.
Absolutely. It's called acceleration. We accelerate processes.
Accelerating. Small business now, which is, I have a concept that I call modern viable business. I don't even actually like the term small business. Businesses today must be smart businesses, regardless of their size, because of the speed of optimization that is taking place with AI. Kyra, you and I use AI daily, multiple times a day. And so in of itself, it has helped us to become much more competitive, smarter, optimizing our time. It shrinks down tasks that, some very intelligent source can do. That in of itself, for smart businesses, right? You have a whole program called the Smart CEO.
That's right.
I work in terms of seismic transformations on helping individuals, leaders make decisions. And a part of that decisioning going forward, Kyra, especially for businesses, smart businesses, is that you're going to have to be able to make decisions faster.
Yes.
And kind of wrapping this up and bringing it all together, we started off talking about data, right? There's a question now even around government data. It's being scrubbed. People are deciding what individuals should see or not see. A resource that I still know is a good resource is actually the Federal Reserve, right? The Federal Reserve puts out great information on economic indicators, there's often a lag in that information because it just takes so much time to get data together.
Mm-hmm.
But also one of the areas where you can absolutely take real-time data every day, especially in a small business, is looking at your traffic.
That's right.
Has your traffic decreased? Even if you're looking at it from the perspective of government contracts, how often are those RFPs, the RFP requests coming out? Look at the frequency of it. Is that slowing down? If that's slowing down, well, then your ability to respond is going to slow down. If your ability to respond is going to slow down, your potential pipeline going forward, even from a government contractual perspective, is going to slow down. So we have these broad federal government economic indicators, and then I have what I call Kyra street indicators.
Yeah. What's the word on the street?
What's the word on the street? You're in the business. And if you're a CEO and you're not in your business, and most of the CEOs we know, Kyra, are heavily involved in their business, now is the opportunity more so than ever for you to also keep your head up, get out of the weeds, and you're going to have to look at the broader indicators. And Kyra, I'm going to come back to you as well, since you are just that master when it comes to people and processes. When you have the information and you're putting the information together to be able, again, to weed out the noise, you have to be able to next start to make a decision off of the information that you're seeing. And you can't be too slow at making that decision, and you can't be too quick at making. That's right. You have to have a good cadence around decision making, but you absolutely have to make those decisions. So Kyra, I'm gonna come back to you with the question: when CEO, your CEO, when you are looking at data and sets of data, what is just a good practice of weeding through that data and being able to get to some key indicators? And every CEO should have some KPIs. You should be running your business based upon some measurement of key indicators that you're wanting to hit. What should be some good practices around just being able to make a decision quickly, and moving through that decision so that you are not slowing down your process? You're not too far behind and you're not too far ahead. It's kind of like having that equilibrium.
You answered it. Truly, it's about what you're already measuring. So don't go find new data sets right now. Let's talk about what we're already measuring and get better. And so if you have, I'm going to give this, it's going to be quick, fast. If you have an operations meeting, an agenda, you're talking about people, process, profitability model, the model for your business in your operations meeting, the only way you can do that effectively is if you're measuring very key performance components of the business. And that typically has to do with how fast customers are coming in, what the gross profit or margin is on those transactions, and then what kind of resources you need to apply to continue to support that. And that's what you should be measuring. Don't go look for new data sets. Pull in the data from the Federal Reserve, or pull in the data from your customer outputs, however you're collecting customer results, and measure. Kim, it is about the KPIs. If you don't have KPIs, you start there. We just talked about optimizing with AI. If you need a tool, give AI the biggest thought. This is my approach to AI. We have literally 60 seconds. I'm going to sum it up in 13. Give AI the biggest thought. You're the thinker here, not the tool. You're the thinker. Give it the biggest thought about the information you need. And once you give it the biggest thought about the information that you need, and you request that AI provide you with the KPIs that you should be considering in your business every day, then that is going to be your starting point. Now, obviously, Kimberly and I could take you on a journey and get this all customized and optimized for you and do all that. It's not a sales conversation. But if you needed to know, we could do that. But I'm saying that is where you need to start. So, Kimberly, if you don't have a baseline operations approach, if you do not have a baseline measurement, a list of performance indicators that you're measuring, that's where you start, because starting anywhere else is going to have you kind of stabbing in the dark and going with whatever trends you see. And that trend may not be the right approach for your business. It may be for your industry, but for your company, maybe not.
Absolutely. Right, and to sum that up, you want not only want to be proactive, you want to be intentional. You also want to be certain on the decisions that you're making. But you got to make one, right? You can't just be flapping out there in the wind. And contact myself, Kyra. We're on LinkedIn. We have all of our information out there. Renel Evans, your supplier, small business, and you know that you have to start moving in a different direction, and you're just not sure where your gaps are. Now's not the time to try and figure all this stuff out on your own. You have to be able to get in front of people. I call it proximity.
Yes.
Who can shorten that timeline between your decisioning and you seeing the results of that decision. Now more than ever. So, guys, we'll be back every week. Kyra and I will be out here in Supplier Nation. And so we'll be popping up. We'll get some information out there live in terms of the exact timing so that you guys can start tuning in. Any questions that you have, appreciate you. See you all again 1 week.
All right. Bye, everybody.